Check 1 2, check 1 2. Miami on the Rocks, Casey Chops. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at MIA on the Rocks. Follow us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Today's guest got the homie Richard Franklin, attorney Richard Franklin. Be clear. Appreciate you pulling up, bro.
Don't forget the Esquire.
Yeah, okay, we're good. Esquire, bro. Ice. Do you know what Esquire means? I didn't go to college, by the way. Esquire means attorney.
It's the equivalent of MD.
For
MD stands for medical doctor.
Okay.
ESQ means doctor of jurisprudence, means doctor of law.
So as soon as you pass the bar, you're Esquire.
Correct.
Okay, dope. Okay, so for the people that don't know, I met Richie.
At Fable.
Richie. When do people call you Richie or Rich? Does it matter?
If you know me well, you call me Richie, right?
Okay.
If you're informal, but a business affiliate, you call me Richard. But if you know me from outside, I'm Filthy Rich.
Talk your shit, Rich.
If you know me from outside.
So, we met at Fable at an event in Wynwood a couple weeks ago, and Rich was kind enough to just put us on game because I know, like, to listen. He's an attorney, and attorneys, like, to give game, they make a lot of money to give game. So, like, he gets paid to give people advice, and you were doing that for the free, and that was very appreciated. You helped out me, Ice, a lot of people. I mean, does that get annoying, by the way? Like, do you feel like when you meet people out and you tell them you're an attorney, do things start to, like, angle in the way of you feel like they're trying to, like, get information out of you?
It never gets annoying because I can readily filter who I care to give info to and who I don't. And by care to, there's certain people who are just genuine. We're having a conversation. I appreciate their energy, and I'm just giving them information because lawyers don't become lawyers simply for money. We actually care about people. Words like freedom, equality, and justice have no effect without lawyers. So Brown versus the Board of Education, the case that ended segregation, was a black attorney by the name of Thurgood Marshall that argued that case. He cared more about his family. He cared about all people because that's the case that made me and you able to sit across each other and make it not illegal. So the fact of the matter is tons of people ask me questions all the time. If I'm not interested in engaging them, I say, I don't know. I have to do some research. But if you hire me for this fee, I can do it for you. Then I tell them the fee and they run away.
Yeah, because I remember I asked you, I'm like, what did you say? What were the words you used? You said something like,
you got to retain me.
Yeah, but you said something about, like, you know, you charge the expensive rates. You're
Correct.
like the Louis Vuitton of attorneys.
You know, Juicy Couture never goes on sale.
Talk about it.
Right? Louis, Chanel, Apple. I've never bought an Apple phone on a discount. Why? Because they guarantee their service and their product. I am 100 for 100 in every case.
I was gonna say, how do you know an attorney's like, you know, boxing record? You know, like, is that available online? Is there a way to know, like, how?
Of course. There are websites that are gauged for attorney reviews. One is avvo.com, avvo.com. You go onto that search engine, you put in an attorney's name, then you can see where they went to school, how many years have they been practicing, and you get reviews from clients that are genuine, not like Google.
Right. Well, but it is a simple thing, like, when you're in court, it's a win or a loss, right? Is it like records? Is there like, I'm 34-3, like, you know?
That's for criminal defense attorneys because it's adversarial.
Gotcha.
Whereas immigration, for example, or personal injury, I'm not going head to head with the government. My client is seeking a way to stay in America. Sometimes it might be through marriage. Sometimes it might be through asylum. Sometimes it might be through temporary protective status. So in immigration, the win is what the client wants. So long as my client is satisfied with the outcome, I won. Versus criminal defense, I'm going against a prosecutor. There could only be a winner and a loser. But with immigration, there's no loss unless my client does something outrageous, gets arrested, gets deported, but then it's out of my hands. But if I take control of a case, I'm confident that that case will likely be successful because I made the assessment during the initial consultation. I know if your case is horrible.
You did the prep already to know what you're
Correct. So part of being a lawyer is we have autonomy, meaning like a doctor cannot choose their patients. Lawyers can choose their clients. A doctor must see everyone.
So you're not going to choose a client that is going into a losing battle. Like, that doesn't...
Similar to Hitch, mostly referrals. So before a client even comes to me, a client who I provided great service for refers that client to me. So they did all the vetting. They spoke to him. They made sure that, one, their money was on par. Two, they weren't doing anything fishy and illegal. Now, some people come to me and say, look, I'm getting married, but I'm paying somebody $50,000. I'm like, oh, for $50,000, I risk going to prison for 5 years, a $250,000 fine, and throwing away my 27 years of education. No, thank you.
Okay.
But the referrals come. So the person who referred usually does all the vetting for me, asks these questions. So by the time I get the client, they're crisp, they're good to go.
Right. So, okay, so let's be clear, because I was going to ask you the type of law that you do. You kind of mentioned it already, is immigration.
In Miami,
Okay.
I didn't start out doing that. So when you just jump into the legal profession, you're usually a litigator. Litigator just means the lawyers that go to court. The types of cases that I worked on were commercial litigation. Those are cases where businesses are suing each other. So if Apple has a major lawsuit against Samsung, they would find litigation attorneys. There would be a breach of contract. That's usually why companies sue each other. There was a contract, one party breached it. That's where I started. Thereafter, I worked for the good folks at Mon Ami Entertainment. Those are the creators of Love and Hip Hop. So I would do entertainment law. That's negotiating the contracts between the talent. So Cardi B, she was on the show. She's considered a talent. She has a contract with the production company, the company that produces the show.
Right.
That's my aunt's company, Mona Scott's company, Mon Ami Entertainment. Right. Mon Ami Entertainment has a contract with VH1 because that's who airs the show.
Right.
And VH1 has a contract with the big umbrella company, Viacom. They own VH1, MTV, BET. So there's layers of contracts.
Right.
In addition, when the cameras are rolling, let's say there's a Nike logo. I have to watch the film and say at 6 minutes, 33 seconds, there's a Nike logo. Unless Nike cuts us a check, we got to blur that out
Right.
because that's their intellectual property.
Right.
So I came from commercial litigation to entertainment law. After entertainment law, I came to Miami for a New Year's party.
Okay.
That New Year's party was literally life-changing. It was during the pandemic, December 26, 2020. New York was on gridlock. Everything was shut down. I spent a week here.
You
Went on
got
a
with
boat
like
in
a
Brickell.
Cuban girl? Like, what happened? Like, what
Yikes.
changed? What was, like, what was...
Yeah, you're right. The asses were a little fatter down here.
Yeah.
The skin was a little bit smoother.
That's
so
something.
yeah, I met a Cuban Puerto Rican Boricua from Kendall. And her
That'll
family.
do it, bro.
Yeah,
That'll do it.
yeah.
My man was like, I'm changing my whole type of law that I do. I'm coming to Miami.
Amen. Shout out to the Hernandez family. They
Okay.
gave me, I think, incentive and the confidence to live here. She lived in Brickell. Her family was from South Miami and Kendall. So they taught me the spectrum of Miami. I'm from New York. All we knew was the beach. I thought I was the coolest ever when I lived in South Beach.
Yeah, New
And
Yorkers, y'all come here and take a picture next to a palm tree and some grass and
We think
want to
we
go
lit.
right to the pool. Like, but you know what? I've always wanted to try. New York is my second home. That's the only place I will ever move to if I ever leave Miami. Maybe Medellin or DR, but in the country, it'll only be New York City. That's the only other place I'll move to. And over there, you guys appreciate summer because it's gray skies for 5 months out of the year.
That's all we got, man.
Exactly. So you guys have an appreciation for good weather. Over here, I grew up around this, so it's not as expensive to me. You know what I mean?
Why do we care about good weather? There's a whole science behind good weather when the sun is out.
Oh, it's medicine. I tell people all the time. All my friends during the pandemic, they came here, moved down here. I'm like, what took you guys so long? Because I would go to New York for business reasons, but it's just not healthy. I don't see it being healthy, bro. Like, just the absence of the sun for that long is
Yeah.
just something I can't comprehend.
It gets
You know?
dark at 4 p.m.
Crazy.
I went to Iceland. Iceland is dark for 19 hours during the winter.
Insane, bro.
That's why, no offense to anyone, but they're pale as fuck.
Yeah.
They need to come to Miami, get some
yeah,
sun.
yeah, facts.
Shit is nuts.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
So you made the change and came over here, and you decided real quick before we get off the topic of that first Miami chick. What are some of the differences you noticed from like being from New York, got with a girl, Miami family from here? What are some things that you?
In terms of the women, the difference?
Yeah, or just the family or the culture or just like, like
There's significant amount of differences, but I'll break it down to what applies to me, right?
Mhm.
First and foremost, I was a young bachelor. So no matter where I go, there's hors d'oeuvres, there's finger foods. I'm not saying every woman in Miami falls under this category, but the fact of the matter is the majority. So 51%, that's a majority, fall into this category. They're bad, they're broke, and they're begging. By begging, they're telling me about their problems in hopes that I can assist directly, not seeking to find out, well, Rich, how did you get into this good financial situation? Tell me, what was your beginning? What internships did you engage in? It's more so, man, I can't pay my rent, baby. You think you got something for me?
Yeah.
I'm zaddy, but I'm not your father.
Yeah.
You need to go check your father for that.
Yeah,
You get where
yeah,
I'm coming
yeah.
from? So what I observed is some of them, because they are prolifically attractive, they're more beautiful than everywhere else in the country.
I think the world. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the most beautiful Mexicans come here. The most beautiful Colombians come here. So you don't have to travel. Miami is not
Right.
America. Miami is not Florida. It's Miami-Dade, period.
Right.
So what I've observed in terms of the women, they use their attractiveness as bargaining power. And on the other hand, I understand. They work out a lot.
Right.
Those surgeries are expensive and they're painful. So they expect some return on their investment, some ROI. Versus New York, that's where you have academic institutions. You have the best universities in the world.
Right.
No offense to Massachusetts. You got Harvard and Yale. But we have Columbia. We have NYU. We have Fordham. We have Stony Brook. We have a plethora. There are 10 law schools in New York alone.
Right.
So the population in New York is predicated on education. You got Wall Street. You have the best law firms in the country. So just growing up, women learn being beautiful is a plus, but you can't use it in terms of gaining some level of financial gain. Why? Because it's cold as fuck. You can't look half naked at Trader Joe's, but in Miami they can.
Yeah.
You got to cover up.
Yeah.
When there's no makeup, when there's a big ass hoodie, you need personality.
Yeah. That's real, bro. And I always say that too about the difference between Miami and New York women. Like Miami women are gonna look better on that yacht, but you're probably gonna have a better time with the New York women.
Correct.
Because they're New York women are, depends on the type of women you like, but I like women who are quick and clever and
I
witty.
love bad bitches.
and,
That's my fucking problem.
you know, and New York women, this is the thing, bro. I mean, New York women do give me masculine vibes. How did you see it? Did you see it when you came over here? Or,
Yeah, but it depends on the man that you're engaged with. If you're talking about me, I exuberate what me and my peers call supreme masculine energy. Moral of the story is, in the jungle, you have many jungle cats. You have a panther, you have a tiger, you have a jaguar. But the fact of the matter is the lioness, the most fierce hunter in the jungle, she only fucks with lions. So you got to be a lion where I come from, right? I grew up in East Flatbush, Brooklyn in the 90s, before there was a Williamsburg and Dumbo. We're talking where Casanova grew up, right? That was my man coming up, right? Where Bobby Shmurda's from, right? It was you either eat or get eaten.
Oh, East Flatbush is East New York?
East Flatbush is different from East New York. East Flatbush is around Kings County Hospital. So we're talking Church Avenue, Flatbush. East New York is way on the other side of Brooklyn. That's around Pennsylvania
That's why I thought
Avenue.
Bobby
Linden.
Shmurda grew up in East New York.
No, Bobby Shmurda grew up in Brownsville.
Oh, okay.
But the difference between Brownsville and East Flatbush, like 3 city blocks, right? You come from the 50s. So imagine 20s, 30s, 40s, those are streets, 31, 32, 33. And when you go into the 50s, after the 50s, it starts 90s, and that's Brownsville. So 3 blocks prior, you're in East Flatbush.
Okay.
So there's a lot of lap over. So for the people who live in Edgewater, you just cross 15th and you're in Bayside.
Got you.
Right? But there's a lot of overlap. We go to the same Publix. We go to the same Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
But I grew up where Casanova grew up. He grew up on East 18th. I grew up on East 39th and Church.
Okay. So what made you want to go into, I mean, obviously immigration law is like a gold mine here in Miami, I could imagine.
Yeah.
Did you do it as a business decision, or did you do it because your heart was in it, or what made you want to go to the immigration side?
It was 3-pronged. So 3-pronged just means that there's no one reason why I did something. Sometimes people get caught up with one major reason. 3 things could be true at the same time. I did immigration when I was working for the firm in New York doing commercial litigation. It was an international firm. So one of the partners was an Argentinian Jew. The other one was a white American, but he was educated in Paris. So he spoke French. I spoke French. They took a liking to me. So I had cases that were in Argentina where I negotiated Argentinian bonds based on people who purchased bonds. A bond is when you buy a debt, When you buy a debt from the government, it's a bond. So you always get that money back. If you spend $50 on a bond, you're guaranteed your $50. And as it matures, you might get 55, 56 versus a stock. A stock is a share. The share might go down if the company's evaluation go down. Just gave the synopsis for people who don't understand the difference between bond and stocks. So I worked for an international firm and I had a lot of international clients that we had to do immigration work for. It wasn't the primary practice, but I was learning all of this immigration as I was working with these businesses and these Argentinian and Swiss clients. So I learned immigration. So one, I had the tool in my arsenal. Two, I'm from an immigrant family. So my whole life, I heard my mom talking about an alien card. That's a green card today, but she used to always talk about her alien card. I have cousins that were immigrating from DR, that were immigrating from Haiti. And I would hear about immigration. These terms I would become familiar with, but I didn't pay them any mind because there was no reason for me to apply them. When I came into Miami, so many people had immigration questions for me. I lived at the SLS Hotel because I was just a tourist. The hookah girl at the SLS Hotel said, "Hey, Rich, could you assist me with the green card?" She had two other friends that had issues relating to visas. So I had so many questions that I was answering for free 99. I said, wait a minute, I think I could cash out here. So I went to go do some due diligence and determine, do I have to take the Florida bar to do immigration? Turns out, no. Why? It's federal law. If you're a lawyer in one state, you can practice immigration in the world because it's the same federal law. So you see how all things fell into play. I had the knowledge from working at another firm. I had the family background, so I was familiar with immigrants. Thereafter, opportunity presented itself.
Right. So what is your personal belief on immigration?
America was built on the immigrants' backs. There was such thing as the North Atlantic slave trade, where my ancestors were brought here on a ship. They immigrated here. Prior to that, you had the Native Americans here, not the ones with the red dot on my head. We're talking the Native Americans, right? No offense to any
I was gonna say, yo,
at all.
We edit the no, I'm joking.
America had the Washington Redskins.
Okay. Yeah, that's crazy, bro.
Okay, don't blame me. I did not invent racism. I'm just a journalist reporting it. But no offense to you guys. So my point is, we all immigrated here. America was built on the backs of immigrants.
Right.
What's American food? Pizza and French fries?
Exactly.
Right? They love tapas. They love tacos. They love empanadas.
Exactly.
That's all cultural food.
Exactly.
So my take on immigration is for those people who are in America, not criminals, not fucking up the country, ready, willing, and able to do work, let's work with them. Everyone has a different situation.
Okay, so if you were the president, your immigration policy would be like, what would it be? Or describe it. How would you see the immigration policy? Would it be an open border? Would it be
No, absolutely not.
So if they crossed illegally, would they be able to stay even though they committed a crime? Like, how do you see it?
There would have to be so many factors. So there's no way I could give one catch-all answer right now, right? There's a whole congressional session that takes weeks and weeks for this sort of issue to be responded to, and it changes. Last president was pro. This president is against. The irony, all his fucking wives are immigrants.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, against immigration, what does that mean? Like, is it just to uphold a law and to enforce the law?
No.
Or is it that's why I asked you, what would your policy be on immigration? Would it be if you came here illegally and broke the law? Because I think we would agree that we need a law, right? We need a border, right? A country isn't a country without a border. So then it comes to, if you come in illegally and break the law, what happens to you if you're caught? Do you pay consequences for breaking the law?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right? There's 4 reasons why we punish people in America. To deter other people from doing it, to incapacitate. Some people are so dangerous, we cannot have them in society.
Right.
To rehabilitate. Some people just need to go time out for a little bit.
Right.
Think about what the fuck they did. And by the time they get out.
But see, it gets tough because there's so much compassion tied to this topic because there's families that are starving and they're leaving.
I think it's racially fueled.
And there's kids and
we don't treat every country the same when it comes to immigration.
Okay.
Right?
Well, most of them because we're in Mexico.
We don't treat the Swiss this way. We don't treat the Germans this way. They get an ESTA.
Right. I mean, I'm not familiar on the influx of Germans compared to like Mexicans, for example, because they're right,
Below
bordered
us.
with it. Yeah. So I don't know the numbers in that regard.
But we should be objective, right? Whether you're Swiss, whether you're German, whether you're Mexican,
100%.
you are an immigrant.
100%.
And let's define immigrant. Immigrant is when one is born outside of the U.S.,
Right.
comes to the U.S. with the intention of staying. That's an immigrant.
Right.
Everyone else is a tourist.
Facts. 100%. So we agree that there should be a border, and the people that are in here illegally should be removed.
No, the people here illegally, for example, if you're here on a visa, your visa is only 3 months, you stay 4 months, everyone categorizes you as illegal. That doesn't make you illegal at all. You're just out of status. A lot of those people renew after the 4th month, and they're able to stay 3 more months. Or they meet a lover while they're at Kiki on the river. That lover says, baby, listen.
That's where immigration love happens at Kiki on the river.
I'm a little washed
those
right
bottles,
now.
It's expensive over there, bro. My boy
I
spent
seen dreams
13
come true
bands
out
on-
here.
Yeah, Kiki
Yeah.
on the river, bro.
One night at Kiki, my man spent $32,000.
Crazy. Bro.
Where's the camera? Right here?
Yeah.
That is not something that we're proud of.
Yeah,
that
that-
was, excuse this, that was a nigga moment. There's a difference between black people and niggas. That was a nigga
Nah, but there's
moment.
people from France and shit that do that same stupid shit. That's not a racial thing.
They have generational wealth.
That's a man thing who wants to get pussy thing. That's what that is. That is not a.
$32,000 worth of pussy.
There's no other. If pussy was not in that club or pussy wasn't in that equation, a man would never do that. Doesn't matter what color you are.
If I'm spending 30 grand, it better come with 4 midgets. I need a Latina. I need 2 Japanese. I need 1 from Swahili. I need a lot of variety for 32K. Don't think 32K was done for pussy. I think that was done for the man's ego.
Yeah.
'Cause we could take a flight to Medellin.
I'm so happy. I'm so comfortable in my skin that I feel like I
Amen.
don't. But then again, I don't have that type of. Maybe it's not tricking if you got it. Are you? Do you subscribe to that?
It depends on how much alcoholic beverages I have inside of me.
Okay.
In the event that I am rock star wasted,
Right.
it ain't tricking if you got it.
Right.
Right? But when I'm in church with my mom, God knows. I have other priorities with my money.
Yeah, bro. I can't.
It depends on how you feel. There's
Yeah.
not a catch-all. When I was a 22-year-old young man, I couldn't be bottle popping. You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
But
But see, you could get.
we got older.
You know.
We got
You're,
higher
you're
earning
in shape,
potential.
you dress nice, you're a fucking lawyer. You don't need to spend $32,000 to get pussy, bro.
No, I'm
You
not
know what I mean?
devoid of pussy at all.
Right.
It just comes down to what I want to do.
Right.
Right? Part of having money is having freedom of choice.
Right.
In the hood, we call money go because you can't stop me when I got money. Right? Money will solve 95% of your problems.
Exactly.
I guarantee it. You have a health issue, money will help you. Magic Johnson has been alive with HIV since 1991.
That's real.
It ain't because he's 6'8".
That's real.
It's that shmoney,
Yeah.
right? You
real.
saw that woman from Full House.
Mhm.
Her child couldn't get into an Ivy League school. She white people that thing and used some money.
Yeah.
He got in.
Yeah.
No issue.
Bro, if you got money, trust me, your cancer will get cured. Like
Orenthal J. Simpson, aka O.J. Simpson, killed 2 white people.
Ooh,
He had money.
ooh,
It worked out for him.
ooh.
2008, black people got Barack Obama. 2008, white people got OJ. That's when he went to jail for kidnapping that white family.
So, bro, being a lawyer, man, we're gonna I want to get through the serious stuff, but being a lawyer, going through that process, going to school, what first of all, where did you go to law school?
I'm not going to give them free promo because they haven't cut me a check.
Talk about
I'm
it.
educated in New York. In the event that you're interested in my education, you go to the New York State Bar website. You put in my name, and it'll show you all my info. But unless they cut me a check, PCP.
I like that. I like that.
We're
I
not
like that.
shouting them out.
I like
I've been a lawyer for 12 years now. You know my body. Check
Yeah.
my website. You see my credentials.
Okay, so so the process of that. Oh, you've already been a lawyer for 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you want to say to some upcoming lawyers or people that are thinking about going to law school or people grow up, oh, you should be a lawyer. You should, and people are thinking about it. What kind of insight can you give to them?
Personally, I think everyone should have a law class that they take because the law impacts every aspect of our lives. Whether you're crossing the street, when you have basic vehicle and traffic laws, whether you're a doctor, you have malpractice laws, whether you're a teacher, you can't just hit kids. There's a law that was created. The law impacts every aspect of our lives. It's the basic rules that create societies. I think everyone should have a legal education. But as far as those people who want to pursue the education, one, you have to be committed. Unlike being an athlete, and I'm using athletes for example because we all know about an athlete's trajectory. They go to high school, they're nice, they usually go overseas for 1 year, or they go to college. After college, they get drafted. We all know that. It's very basic. Athletes have the hard work that is training. They have to be disciplined. They're prolific in their athletic ability. It's actually an intelligence that they have. Kinesthetic intelligence, right? There's emotional intelligence, there's logical intelligence. So I'm using athletes, but they have a lot of instant gratification. Family comes to the games. Cheerleaders are rooting for them. They dunk and the endorphins go up. In addition, they're getting a plethora of punani because they're prospects to go into the league. When it comes to academia, after every exam, I walked out the classroom, there was no pussy waiting for me. Family doesn't show up to root for you until graduation. That's the very end.
There's not like those short-term rewards.
At all. So it has to come from within, right? You have to want to make a difference in the world. And when I presume I was about 9 years old, I had a family member very close to me that was incarcerated without the due process, meaning their day in court. They were just grabbed from a home, thrown in prison, and just had to serve time in a third world country. I think that broke my heart. So early on as a kid, I wanted to be like the LeBron James of my community, meaning he could play defense, he could play offense, he can pass the ball. So I said, I want to be dangerous. And by dangerous is I want to go against the status quo. Big Sean said, over 25, living a fucking life. White America said, I'd be doing 25 to life. I wasn't supposed to be here. And I mean that statistically. Black people account for 5% of lawyers in the United States. Black Black men account for 2% of lawyers in the United States. So for those guys who are on YouTube...
Wait, did I hear that correctly?
All of the lawyers...
Black women than black men lawyers? You said
correct. Black women have us dominated in terms of education. They're killing us, bro.
Well, women in general have us dominant. Like the country numbers in general, more women are graduating from college than men right now, which is like a topic actually, like in general. But yeah, okay, I didn't know that. Like more specifically, more black women.
Which is 1%. It's just 3% of black women, and 2% of. But you look at the amount of black people incarcerated. You look at the amount of folks that are affected by the law. So the people in the justice system don't look like us, don't walk like us, are not from our community, but they're judging us. The prosecutors who charges you with a crime. The judge doesn't charge you. The jury doesn't charge you.
Right.
82% of prosecutors are white males.
Really?
Yeah.
In the country?
Correct.
I didn't know
This is not an abstract fact. It makes sense because to be a lawyer, you have to go to college for 4 years. Then you have to get into law school via the law school admissions test, the LSAT. This test is ridiculously difficult. It tests absolutely nothing about the law. It tests reading comprehension. You have to read fast. It tests your logical reasoning. And you have to take a course to gear you or prepare you to take that LSAT, law school admissions test. That course is like $1,500. So you get through the hurdle of college. You get through the hurdle of the law school admissions test. 100,000 people take the test. There's only 30,000 seats in law schools in America. So 70,000 get thrown away. So you have to be the top 70 percentile in terms of your tests.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that either.
Now you need a strong GPA. In college, you have a small group of below average people. You have a big group of average people between C- and B+. And you have a small group of those A to A+ kids. Law school, med school, business school, everybody's an A+ student.
Yeah.
Everybody's resume is airtight. What sets you aside is those internships. So I knew that early on. So I interned for my local congressman. That spearheaded me to the United States Supreme Court in 2008 when Obama was running for office. I got to see a young, charismatic, Ivy League black man. Obama is not a Carlton Banks. He's more of a Will Smith. He had that slogan, yes, we can. He put a lot of courage in this young 18-year-old kid's heart. I got to meet a chief justice in the United States Supreme Court. And then I got to meet all of the justices. Clarence Thomas is a black man. He stopped and had a conversation with me, and he didn't talk to me like an African-American or a black man. He spoke to me like his dog.
Yeah.
right? He talked to me about
Yeah.
life in Georgia, growing up on a slave plantation. So all of those contributed to the burning desire that I had. So it started off with family member being wrongfully incarcerated, thereafter going to college and knowing what I was up against, saying, damn, in order to get into law school, I'm going against Brad and Chad from
Yeah.
affluent neighborhoods. And no offense to them, but they start where they started,
Right.
right? I started where I started.
Right.
I'm not complaining about that, but I got to
Right.
equal the playing field out.
Right.
So I knew my internships is what was going to give me the edge.
Right.
I had great internships. My older brother took a look at my resume. He went into HR, so he was a resume buff. He goes, I'm going to make this thing airtight. And I applied to law schools. And when I got in, my best friends would tell you this. I said, we made it. They said, Rich, you only got in. I said, dog, I got vision. I'm thinking 15 years from now.
Yeah.
They let me in. They messed up.
Yeah.
And by they messed up, I changed the status quo. That's what I mean by stay dangerous, stay intelligent, stay healthy.
Right.
Stay all those things that they, as in the people that are up against us. It's a world of 8 billion
system.
people. I can't believe everybody loves me,
Right.
right? So for those who don't love me, I don't make it easy for them.
Right.
My
No,
boys
I have to frame it. Bro, even if I don't have enemies, I have to make enemies up in my head. That's
Indeed.
just the way I am.
They
Like,
exist.
I need that type of.
someone doesn't like you because you're more attractive than them.
Right.
Somebody doesn't like you because the woman that they fancy can't stop talking about you.
Right.
Somebody doesn't like you because of the building you live in, as if
Right.
you deterred them from coming here,
Right.
right?
Right. That's real. And so I feel like half of being a lawyer, correct me if I'm wrong, but you talked about testing and all of those things, and you have to be super intelligent
And
to
I
be
started
a lawyer.
with, it has to come from within.
Right.
So don't be a lawyer because your mom asked you,
Right.
right? Don't be a lawyer because the community around you are full of lawyers. It has to come from within. So when you look in that mirror, one, you have to be dedicated because the journey has no instant gratification.
Right.
It doesn't even have gratification until 10 years after.
Right.
Ask every lawyer.
So I feel like being a lawyer, correct me if I'm wrong, but half of being a lawyer is the intelligence and the knowledge, but the other half of it is being able to speak and being charismatic and being able to articulate an idea. How much of those people that are super smart are just the nerds that don't know how to articulate themselves in a courtroom and speak confidently and have the socials? Because I feel like being a lawyer is like half a social skill as well.
Only 10%. The litigators, 90% are introverts. They're great readers, they're great researchers, and they work for judges. They work for law firms.
Okay, so there's work for those kids, the guys that don't have
the loud mouths like me usually run the law firm.
Okay.
We're the ones that usually are, they call the rainmakers. We bring in the business, we're slick talking, we're custom suits.
You're businessmen. You're not just
Indeed.
lawyers. You're not
Yeah.
just like
You attract
academics.
flies with honey.
Right.
You get where I'm coming from? But we need to work. It's like Nip Tuck. You remember Christian Troy? He drove the Ferrari. He had the custom suits, but his partner was the one who literally kept that practice going because he was the more skillful plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
But every skill counts. Some
Right.
lawyers can do great legal research. We need that component in order to file those documents with the
Right.
court.
It's like a
We
different
need-
position on the team. You need
There you go.
Yeah.
You need a litigator who can speak on the fly. You need someone who the jury will like.
Okay, so let's be clear. The percentage of people with law degrees and are lawyers, a small percentage of them are in courtrooms talking.
Correct.
Most of them are just doing paperwork.
Those are the gladiators.
Yeah.
Court is where you go battle. There's a whole physical science behind going to court. It's emotional. Judges are brilliant. They had to be lawyers for 10 years before they make it to the courtroom. Everything that you're doing as a junior lawyer, the judge did already. In addition, the judge has a law clerk. You remember those people I just described as being introverted but brilliant? Those law clerks, they know legal research like the back of their hands. They love working for 15 hours a day.
Yeah.
So when you're in court, it's intimidating. If you didn't come prepared, one, you're going to get embarrassed because every member of the public is sitting in a courtroom.
Right.
The other lawyers are just looking at you. It's intense.
Right.
So one, you have to be confident.
Right.
Without confidence, you have twice lost in the race of life.
Did you knew that you were going to be that type of lawyer, like the confident,
You get
articulate?
you get built up, but everyone starts that way. You could see LeBron James was predisposed with gifts that would allow him to be a great athlete.
Right.
Early on in life, I was always a great orator. I always got 100 on every English exam. My Regents, that's the state exam in New York, I got 100 on them. You could see that academically I was
are
gifted.
there classes in law school to where it's like the speaking part of it.
Yeah.
And then you see, okay, he doesn't have it
Correct.
for that. He doesn't.
Law school is based on the Socratic method. Real quick, Socratic method comes from the philosopher Socrates. He was a philosopher that taught his disciples, his students,
He
by
got jailed
letting
for
them speak.
corrupting the youth, by the way.
I can't subscribe to that. I don't know. I wasn't around back then.
Yeah.
He corrupted the youth.
He
The
got-
youth corrupted themselves.
He got thrown in jail because they said he was corrupting the youth.
Now, who's the they? Who's the prosecutors?
That's a good question. Probably, this is Rome, right? Am I tripping?
This was Rome.
Yeah, this was whoever was,
Yeah, you saw what the Romans did to Caesar, man.
Yeah, that's real.
Right. I've been to the Colosseum, man. There was people fighting on people. That was slavery of the people.
Yeah.
To force me to go kill another and tell me if I don't kill him, you're going to kill me. They were slaves.
Oof.
Socrates created the Socratic method.
Do we? I think about all that, like them, like
was
people
nuts.
be like, times are so bad right now. Cool.
Dog.
Like we live in the best time to be alive. Can we
Correct.
be clear on that?
Correct.
Like there's not barbaric hordes waiting to like kill your wife and take your land and shit. Like
It's
we
not
don't
Game
gotta-
of Thrones no more, man.
Yeah, bro. People be like, this is the worst time. Everything's falling apart. And I'm thinking to myself, like, my grandparents died in wars. Like, my mom's dad died in a war when she was 16. Like every time before this has been barbaric. It's only getting more civilized.
Correct. We have fucking artificial intelligence now.
It's
You can have a whole essay drafted for you based on 3-sentence prompts.
Rich. You press 3 buttons on your phone and food arrives at your door. Like,
Uber Eats, and we live in Miami. There's Uber Cheeks. There's an app for that too. There's an app for that too, baby. Don't get it
Cheeks is
twisted.
crazy. And there's people complaining, bro. That's what's wild to me. Every time I get into a rut or like that's why I say depression is a privilege, bro. Because whenever I get into that, I think to myself, bro, there's 700,000 people that died in this Ukraine war. You know what I mean? That they just because they were born over there, they're forced to do it. You know what I mean? Like
Facts.
we're so gifted. If you are in this country, you're in the top 10% of the world.
Correct.
Of throughout time and history and geographically throughout the world. You're in the top 10%. So I cannot be depressed, Rich.
You got it.
You can't.
You got it. So in law school, the public speaking aspect comes from Socrates. So he invented the Socratic method because he would let his students teach themselves. He would hand them a microphone, ask them a question, they would respond, and someone else would challenge it. That's how law school is conducted. You show up into class, they'd say, Mr. Richard, could you tell us about Brown versus the Board of Education? And in law school, you use a format called IRAC, I-R-A-C. So I would say I stands for issue, R stands for rule, A stands for analysis, C stands for conclusion. So the case Brown versus Board of Education, that's the case that ended segregation. So I would say the issue in Brown is whether separate but equal in terms of black and whites was in fact constitutional because there was a case prior called Plessy versus Ferguson where the Supreme Court said black and whites are separate, but they have equal schools, they have equal opportunities. So Brown was challenging that notion because you had kids that were in school, black kids were not getting good textbooks, didn't have teachers that had master's and doctorate degrees. The white kids did, and now they're taking the same standardized tests to compete for the same colleges.
Right.
So the issue, whether separate but equal, is in fact constitutional. The rule, under Plessy versus Ferguson, the Supreme Court ruled, even though blacks and whites are segregated, they have equal opportunities. The analysis. In Brown versus Board of Education, which was in the scholastic context, we're looking at schools in Mississippi or down south. They looked at the test scores for the black kids and the test scores for the white kids. They looked at the textbooks. They were dated. They were textbooks from 20 years ago that didn't have the new information. When I was growing up, Pluto was a planet. Now it's a fucking star. If a kid has a
For
book-
real?
Yeah, that's a fact.
They got rid of Pluto?
My very educated mother just served us 9 pickles. P stood for Pluto. Pluto's
got
now
rid
a
of
star.
Pluto?
They got rid of Pluto. Not the dog, too. Yeah. So if I have a
Damn, I'm out of the
textbook.
loop.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Let me let it sink in for a little bit.
Yeah, bro. You can't just cancel Pluto, bro.
They cancel
What the fuck did
Pluto.
Pluto do?
You get it? So the books that the blacks had said Pluto was still a planet.
Yeah.
Versus the books the whites had said Pluto was a star. Now you have an examination that tests your knowledge of Pluto.
Yeah, that's real.
It's unfair.
That's real.
And for the first time, the United States Supreme Court relied on the social sciences. The Supreme Court, when they give a decision, they use the Constitution and they interpret the black letters. the letters that are in the Constitution, they assume that they mean what the letters mean. So if there's a sentence that says all people shall have the right to bear arms, the Supreme Court says that means all people shall have the right to have a gun.
Right.
They don't look at other social sciences.
Right.
But for the first time, the Supreme Court said, if black children feel inferior to white children in an academic setting, that's going to make them less likely to positively contribute to society.
Right.
They're not going to go off to become teachers, inventors, scientists. So the Supreme Court struck down the previous case, Plessy versus Ferguson, and said segregation is over. That's what allowed us to create hip hop. That's what allowed us to elect Barack Obama. That's what allowed Jay-Z to have a song called My President is Black.
Right.
That's what allowed me to sit across from you. One case argued by one lawyer who was black.
Legendary, bro.
Thurgood Marshall.
And we're still, I mean, you could still take those textbooks and compare them and they'll probably be the same issue.
Correct.
The same shit, bro.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same shit. I mean, I could even argue just school is a bro. It's really hard for me to get with college right now, bro. I'm happy I didn't go to look for lawyer, doctor, certain things.
Yeah,
you
that's
gotta go to
professions.
school.
You must go to school.
You got to go to school. How do you conceptualize college now in today's world?
I think at the very minimum, we all ought to, right? Ought to doesn't mean should. It means could. We all could go to college. Make your decision. I graduated high school, I was 17. I'm in East Flatbush, Brooklyn. What the fuck would I get involved in at 17 years old when I'm a young man in Brooklyn? Gang shit.
Right.
Street shit.
Right.
That's all we were familiar with.
Right.
Oh, that's a bar. Gang shit, street shit, that all we were familiar with.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that. So I went to college because I said, I'm going to figure it out there. And I was correct. That was my early introduction to other racial groups. You don't meet Jewish people when you're growing up in a neighborhood that's predominantly Black or Spanish.
Right.
We all live in neighborhoods that are de facto segregation. De facto means Italians like to live around Italians.
Right. Well,
Blacks like to live around blacks.
Crazy, Rich, is I grew up the opposite of that. And I think that's what's cool about
gotta
being
know
from
you're an
South
anomaly.
Florida. You're right. I do.
You're a special cat.
I do. But the thing is that in Miami or in South Florida in general, bro, I literally went to school with, well, first of all, throughout most of my life, in my ambiance, I've been a minority. But it's like 50% Latin, 30% white, 15% Black, whatever it is. I've had all types of friends my whole life. You know what I'm saying? To the point, Rich, to where if I talk to somebody and their friend group is homogenous, I don't care if you're white and you hang out with only white people, if you're Black and you hang out with only Black people, and you're Cuban, you hang out with only Cuban people, I'm gonna have a hard time relating to you.
Agreed.
That's just me. You know what I mean? Because I pride myself on being a chameleon and being able to be culturally, affluent and being able to just fit in any and be inquisitive and want to learn in different cultures and shit, So yeah. So it's hard for me to understand concepts like that, like Flatbush. Yeah, it's gonna be all Black. You're gonna be, if you're in Long Island, it's probably gonna be mostly white. You know what I mean? Like overwhelmingly so. You know what I mean? And it's hard for me to understand those concepts and how people grow up in those environments. Because
Casey, give yourself more credit. You're talented, you're skillful, and your comprehension skills are on 10. You most certainly understand. The issue might be you can't relate. But what I explained to you, you clearly understand.
Right.
It's just unrelatable because you grew up personally, and I think the best city on earth. There's such a cosmopolitan feel here.
Right.
You have South America, all of the Caribbean, Eastern Europe, all amongst each other. In New York City, I felt like a Black attorney because every firm that I worked at, it was myself and the
Rich,
security guards that were Black.
I love New York City, and it is diverse, but it feels, when I go to New York, bro, it feels like the Black, the white kids at the bar here, the Black kids at the bar here, and it's like it feels like
when you go to Chanel, when you go to Madison, when you go to Fifth Ave, every security guard in the front is a 6'8" African. When you walk inside, everyone that's selling you a product is a foreigner that has a ridiculously European accent and looks affluent as fuck,
Right.
right? When you look at the purchasers, they all have a Ashkenazi or Sephardic twang. We're talking Jewish people, right?
Right, right.
Ashkenazi, Sephardic. So you're watching the demographic. When you go to get your nails done, it's one demographic. When you go to get your hair braided, it's one demographic.
Right.
So there's segregation in terms of the disciplines. The disciplines just means your career. So in New York City, you got to know that in terms of lawyers.
It just feels racially charged when I go to New York.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But that was the purpose of New York when it was created. I had great professors. I tell people, if you didn't go to Harvard and Yale, that's fine. Make sure all of your professors did. And every school that I went to, every professor of mine went to Harvard and Yale. So I was educated by those folks, and they bestowed a significant amount of knowledge upon me. And one professor in particular explained New York City was the capital of America. The first president, George Washington, he was inaugurated on Wall Street at a spot called Frantz Tavern. Frantz is a bar now. That's the capital of the country. New York City was intended to have tenements where minority groups would live. Those are called projects. But it was meant to be the epicenter of Wall Street, Broadway, and the most sophisticated law firms, hospitals in the country. We, my people, my ancestors, were intended to live in the projects. And these projects remain the same. East New York remains the same. The Bronx remains the same. Why? And this is a term of art, meaning sociologists refer to this. Every city has to place its unwanted. Unwanted means someone who spent 30 years in prison. Society says you put your interest before society because you committed a crime that got you locked up for 30 years. Individuals who have unfortunate diseases. We don't want them amongst young kids that are growing up because we're scared that they're going to pass this leprosy off to the child. But you got to put them somewhere.
Right.
So they have designated neighborhoods all throughout the cities where they put them. When the mortgage came about in 1954, that's when the mortgage system was made after the Second World War. Mortgages were only given under this criteria. Your grandfather had to go to college. Your great-grandfather had to have the right to vote. It was illegal.
Yeah.
For blacks to have people to do that. So those mortgage laws were racist. So the people that were able to move into the suburbs, which were Westchester and Long Island, who got mortgages, they were all non-black. The cities were intended for us to work, wash dishes. And then somewhere in the late 80s, this phenomena called hip hop was invented. Hip hop saved black people. That's the only thing American about black culture. This language I'm speaking was forced upon me. The religion that I believe in was forced upon me. The clothes that I wear, I have no option. The reason why I drive a German car, I wear Italian suits, there's no Africans that make these cars.
Right.
There's no Africans that make these.
Right.
I don't have a choice. So I have nothing against these racial groups, but I'm just a journalist reporting the news. Hip hop came about. Michael Jackson did the moonwalk in 1987 across that stage.
Yeah.
And America looked and said, the black people are not so bad.
Yeah.
Then their kids started to consume our music. And hip hop is graffiti, MCing.
I think at the end of the day,
Go ahead.
people are going to gravitate. It doesn't matter what race you are. People are going to gravitate toward the underdog. And what hip hop did is it stood firm in that we're the underdog and we're going to give our perspective from being the underdog, and it captivated the world.
Beautifully said.
You know what I mean? That people are always going to love the underdog. Two people are fighting, you want the underdog to win. You want David to beat Goliath. Like
Beautifully said.
you know? And hip hop for me, I'll be honest with you, bro. Hip hop for me is what gave me, to be transparent. My parents are together. My father was always in my life, and my father was always present. But my father never injected that ambition into me. He never gave me that ambition. But when I'm 13 years old and I hear the phrase "get rich or die trying," that phrase alone probably crafted my whole mentality of what gave me my ambition to get where I'm at today. So I could probably say hip hop is probably like my second father figure, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I had to, and they say, like, obviously I can't, they say music, you could either, people like music they could relate to or escape to. I couldn't relate to it. but I could escape to it to be able to channel that underdog chip on your shoulder energy and manufacture it in your head. And that's kind of what I did. And I, bro, without black culture, there's no, or hip hop, there's no way I would be where I'm at today. And there's no way I would have the ambition I have today because it was not given to me anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact.
And anyone could be hip hop. You don't have to be black, white, Asian, but we understand the pioneers, the ones who created it, right?
Right. The ones who went through the struggle.
Yeah. Eminem is one of the illest lyricists, and he's all hip hop. Right. If somebody has an issue with Eminem, you can personally talk to me on that.
Right.
But when you give black people opportunity, there's no way you could be a racist. He put on 50 Cent, who put on G Unit, who put on hundreds and thousands of black people.
Right.
So for folks who say, nah, Eminem's not hip hop, you out of, excuse this expression, your cotton picking mind. He is hip hop.
Right. Bro, you know what's crazy? When I was in 7th grade, and some kid in the back of some Spanish kid said that to my black teacher. And I didn't realize and then black teacher goes, "What did you say to me?" And I didn't realize like that phrase, like what it was when he said it. And when you said that, that's probably the second time I've ever heard that phrase since then, which is why that memory came up, by the way.
Yeah.
And my teacher went insane like on that kid.
It's a phrase to mention how ignorant you are,
Right.
because that's what the N-word actually means. When you look in the dictionary, first word is ignorant, lacking knowledge of. So you tell someone that, you're like telling them you're beyond ignorant, like you're unintelligent. I don't want to talk to you. And it's wild offensive.
Right, yeah, for sure.
It's coming from a black man. I'm not out here putting my people down. I'm one of them.
Okay, do I want to go in this route? Like, where do you see racial, where we're at right now racially in the country?
Yeah.
And I'm sure we both agree on the result we want, right? We want everyone to get the same opportunities. Obviously, it doesn't matter where you're from, what color you are. I'm sure we both want that. I'm sure we have different ways on how we want to get there.
That is impossible. Finish your point.
Well, that was like my point. Like, how do we correct? Because it feels racially charged still, right?
It is.
Well, right.
I'm going to give you an analogy, and I'm going to explain racism in a nutshell, inequality. You ready? Mm-hmm. If you take two seeds, you plant a white seed, you plant a black seed. If you give them the same amount of water, the same amount of light, theoretically, they grow at the same rate. Mm-hmm. If you take a white seed and you plant it in front of a black seed, if you water the white seed and the black seed just gets the runoff water, the additional water that the white seed does not need, the runoff light, the additional light that the white seed does not need. If you do that for 350 years, and the reason why I use that specific number is the chronology of racism and slavery in America. The first slave ships came here like 1503. The slaves weren't free till 1865, but that didn't end segregation, right? Blacks and white couldn't hang out up until 1954. So it's 350 years of segregation and discrimination. If you give that white seed water and light for 350 years, and after 350 years, now you give them the same amount of water, same amount of light. It's not equality because that black plant
100%
has malnourished roots, malnourished leaves. There's no way after 350 years, two plants can grow at the same rate.
I agree.
We never will have equality, but we'll get closer to it. And that's what we're specifically asking. Black people are resilient, man. If you put me and you in the Saharan sun for 6 hours, my brother, I'm going to be at an advantage. You're going to have a horrible, horrible time if you're exposed to that sunlight forever in a day. So what I'm saying is we're resilient. We're not tripping. We understand the history, but we just want a chance.
Right.
A knee on our neck for 12 minutes, that's not a chance.
Right.
Deny me a job opportunity because my name is Jerome Johnson, that's not a chance.
For sure. What do you think? What do we do? What do we do? Because in the way I see it is the only way the scales are tipped, right? Like throughout history, the scales have been tipped.
Yep.
The only way to tip it back is to put more weight on the other side. But at the same time, you can't
give preferential treatment to one group.
Right. So how do you come out of this? How do you fix this problem?
It's it's a philosophical question, man. It's
Right.
almost like which one came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right,
We
right,
don't
right.
fucking know,
Right.
right? We eat the chicken and we eat the egg. Fuck it.
Right.
So the way I think, and this is my belief, when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to belief, that's at the very bottom of knowledge. There's I believe, I think, I know, I am certain. This is just my belief.
Right.
My belief is one, the powers that be have to acknowledge that there is racial discriminations going on. Until Black Lives Matter in 2020, the white friends I grew up with told me, yo, Rich, I thought you guys' history started at slavery. I said, really? What about the great civilization of Kemet? What about the inventors of mathematics? What about the Mesopotamian empires? You know, there's books that show history beginning before the slave trade. My mom's side of the family is Haitian. I have photos of my great-great-grandfather wearing suits. We pioneered freedom in the world. We are the first individuals in the world to escape white colonialism.
Haiti, yeah. Haiti was the first to.
Every flag in South America has the Haitian colors because we were the freedom fighters that assisted them in getting their independence. 300 years later, they act like they don't know what's up. But
Right.
there's a specific group of Haitians that exists that understand the history. My grandfather died when he was 102, 3 years ago. So he told me the stories that his grandfather gave him when he was 102. So in this memory bank, I got 400 years of history that didn't make it to the textbooks because the winners of the war write the history.
Right.
The winner's not going to write a history to make him or her look bad.
Right.
So the fact of the matter is, historically, you had the Haitian folks that believed in, one, we have to make a difference internally. I think in terms of the racism that exists, the powers that be have to acknowledge, man, we kind of fucked up. We dropped the ball. Because acting like, man, why are black people complaining? They have the same opportunities as everyone else. That's bullshit. When you say that, it's almost you're disregarding the issue. So first you have to acknowledge, all right, there's an issue. Now when there's an issue that you acknowledge, you're open to listening.
Right.
You're not disregarding people. And then I think now the ball is back onto the oppressed field.
Right.
We're due for another revolution, like the Harlem Renaissance, where one, we Black folks, Spanish folks, every non-power that be needs to focus on some level of skill and education. Focus on plumbing, focus on being a teacher, focus on being a doctor. That's what the Harlem Renaissance was about. It wasn't about ousting white people, but you had writers, Langston Hughes, you had Black folks that wanted to be poets, academics. Because if we have no infrastructure where we can teach each other, we're forever going to be indigent servants. If the prosecutors don't look like us, if the judges don't look like us, we won't ever be able to judge each other. So I appreciate Kai Cenat for his contribution as a Black man. I appreciate LeBron James as a contribution as a Black man. But I would love to see more young, vibrant, cool-looking scholars. Because when I was growing up, I didn't look up to Michael Jordan. I liked his sneakers, but that's not what I wanted to do.
Right.
We have no role models that are focused on leadership.
It gets tricky too, because in the same vein, I agree with everything that you're saying, but then I also believe that, and I like I said, I just got done saying that Black culture like instilled everything in me that got me to where I'm at. But and every culture has the positive and the negative, but there's a poisonous aspect in Black culture that does damage as well.
Tell me.
And just that underdog, like how we said, it comes from being an underdog, and it how can I put it? It comes from being the underdog, so people hip hop gravitates people to that role, but there's certain, for example, me and you grew up listening to music that, you know, whether it's gun talk, whether it's whatever it is, to paint a picture and to give you a feeling. But me and you are not going to go and pick up a gun or do some shit like that.
Yeah.
But there's people who don't know how to discern certain aspects.
And law enforcement will handle their asses.
And there's people who are who don't know how to discern, and then it's attracting the masses, because the masses are gonna be people who do that, you know. So
you think hip hop music makes the overall majority of Black people act out in crimes and aggression? Is that the
No.
statistic you think?
No, absolutely not.
Oh.
No.
The kids that do subscribe to drill and those sort of, they're serving 30 in life.
Right.
There's a NBA young boys in jail right now. Casanova's in jail right now.
Right, exactly. But what I'm saying is hip hop,
Yeah.
this is what happened. Hip hop was like, when it was born, it was like, oh, we're the villain. Okay, we're gonna embrace this villain role and we're gonna channel it through. We're the underdog, we're the villain. Fine, if that's who we want to paint us as, we're gonna be that, and we're gonna channel it through music. And that type of energy is, if you're the right person absorbing it, you could take that villain energy, that underdog energy, and channel it the right way. But there's too many kids. They're like, oh, I'm gonna be the villain. Like, because
No, Casey, that's just your interpretation of hip hop, right?
Well, that's how I believe that people are interpreting hip hop. That's how I see it, you know?
You said that's your belief,
Right.
right? Remember, in terms of knowledge, belief is at the bottom.
Right.
So I'm from the school of thought when Tupac had songs like Changes, Learn to See Me as a Brother said of two distant strangers.
Right.
There's been an evolution of hip hop.
Right.
The overwhelming majority of the kids that make hip hop now, they're not from a level of struggle that the artists from NWA's era, the 90s era had to deal with.
Right.
Those guys had zero opportunities, man. There was no YouTube, brother. You couldn't go on TikTok and make $1. You had to sell dope because you were watching your mother who had 8 children and your father who was incarcerated because he whistled at a white woman. He went to jail for
Right.
15 years.
Right.
So hip hop didn't start off with the intention of plaguing the community with negative imagery. Meek Mill just spoke on it. The record label executives pay these young black kids more money for talking about violence and hatred, and they give them bigger bonuses.
Now you see, that's a whole nother.
Meek Mill came out and said,
Yeah.
I'm from West Philly. You saw what happened in the documentary, Free Meek. Jay-Z paid all of those private detectives to go determine, why is this young kid, Meek Mill, on probation for 19 years? It's on Amazon. After he paid all these detectives, after he did investigation, he learned that Philly had a whole police department that was based on setting up young black men. They put cases on them based on drugs and money that they stole and gave false cases. And the judge that was assigned to Meek Mill's case said to Meek Mill, if you don't have Nicki Minaj come in here and autograph something to me, I'm going to keep you on probation for 19 years. So you have tons of narratives that are incorrect. So one, the record label executives, and I don't know what ethnicity they are. I'm not a record label executive. I don't work within that scope, but I don't imagine they're hood kids from Philly. They're incentivizing young kids who are growing up in poverty to make violent music because they get more money. Now, these kids are making that decision, but bro, I don't know how you grew up, but when you're hungry, you don't think about mathematics and doing algebra. When you're starving, you're desperate.
Right.
So I think one, desperate people are being targeted. And I think two, parents got to be parents. Hip hop music was around when I was growing up. That was violent. That was destructive. My mom and dad raised me.
The thing is that the way I grew up with hip hop, it was
It's just music, man. It's just artistic expression.
It was things were implied. It was like, you know, Lloyd Banks, I'll put a dot on your head like it's part of your religion. It was slick villain gang talk, but it was written in such a profound poetic way with metaphors and analogies that it gravitated intellects there, and it gravitated people like me who saw the art in the poem, in the writing. And then it became so dumbed down to where it's not, I'm gonna put a dot on your head like it's part of your religion. It's, I'm gonna kill you. There was no implying anymore. It was lowest common denominator. There was no poetic into it.
That's what rap came from, though, man. Rap came from struggle. Gangsters made rap music, so they were just journalists reporting the news. Rap didn't come from people in church.
But if we're talking music talk, hip hop used to be. Hip hop used to appeal to scholars.
Correct. You had KRS-One. I agree.
Right. It was
African Bambaataa.
It was a different language. You had to be smart to understand hip hop. It didn't matter if you were low income, high. You had to have a certain type of IQ, bro, to understand what they were saying. There's some songs you had to listen to there's Jay-Z songs I knew the words, but I didn't understand what he was saying
30.
until I was
A grown
18
man.
years old. Right.
Yeah, Casey, the reason that exists right now is because hip hop started making so much money. The product that sells the most is the gangster shit. Why? When you show up to any hip hop audience, right? It's not a bunch of kids from the ghetto that buy those $150 tickets. It's suburban white kids that consume that music because it's so far removed from what their parents tell them to do.
Right.
And
They
NBA
want to
Young-
relate to the villain. They want
Correct.
to relate to the
So because there's money involved now, the artists are creating music that's generating a lot of money. The kids in the ghetto don't have Spotify, man.
Yeah.
They can't stream these things.
Yeah.
They grew up with the artists. So they grew up with Casanova, right? Casanova and the people who consume his music are his friends. They're from his neighborhood. They're part of the same entourage that he's part of.
Right.
But the people that give the money are not from that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Gangsters have been sensationalized in America, and it creates so much money. And it's a problem that we individually, the blacks that create the music, we have to tackle. The OGs are not raising the young G's. Why? Because they're doing 35 years. I had G's that were gangster Crips on my block that would tell me, listen, young man, they take off their glass. Listen, young man, you see this life out here being in the street? It's not for you. We did it because we had no opportunity. What you need? I'm like, I don't need no, you need something. You out here looking for trouble. What you need? Man, I want to get a BMX bike. And I'm giving you my testament. Man, I want to get a BMX bike. The OG in the neighborhood. Shout out to Housey. Housey be like, yo, E, get young man a BMX tomorrow. The G's didn't want us to sell drugs. They want us to go to school.
Right.
But when indictments were coming down with the RICO statutes, the powers that be knew what they were doing, man. They sent them away for 30, 40, 50 years for crack. You used to get the same amount of jail time for 100 grams of cocaine for 1 gram of crack.
Crazy.
You can't make crack without cocaine. How do
Right.
I know? Maybe I was about that life once upon a time.
Right.
You should get more time for 100 grams of cocaine. That's the more potent drug.
Right.
They were sending folks away. Obama changed that. He changed it from 100-to-1 ratio to 16-to-1. So the issue is not just a simple people who are creating music. You got the law structure, man. When I was in law school, I interned for the federal prosecutor. I would see hardcore gang members that had tats all over their face come in with handcuffs in the prosecutor's office. The cuffs would come off and they'd be talking to the DEA agent by first name. They're thinking I'm Carlton, but I'm really Will. Identifying,
Yeah.
The
know what it is?
system is out to get us for real.
You know what it is, Rich? Is that what makes this difficult is and especially for me being a white man, obviously, and saying, for me,
You are our ally though, KC.
right, but it's dangerous because I have to say things like, I want us to get to the same place, but we may disagree on how we're going to get there. So for the way I live life, Rich, is, and I tell this to my girl, I tell this to everybody, everything is my fault, even if it's not. If I go to the fucking outside and it rains and I didn't bring an umbrella, it's my fault. We live in a world where people are going to be like, oh, it's not my fault. But you don't learn anything when you put the blame on somebody else, right? Even if it's not my fault, I have to take blame.
Casey, so you're saying disregard the 350 years of inequality?
No. You can't.
Yeah.
You
all
can't.
of my friends from law school, all of their fathers are lawyers and their grandfathers are lawyers. It was illegal for my grandfather to be a lawyer. So disregard the fact that
No. You're absolutely correct. My thing is that if it's not, there can be no improvement. There can be no, how do I say this? It's like psychology. If it's not, forget that the racial side of it, apply it to me. If it's not my fault, there's no adjustment I will ever make to get a change. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I don't know how to say it. Like, everything is my fault. Like, in my life, if I get a rash, it's like, damn, what did I rub up against to give me a rash? It probably is not even that. But this is a very profound topic to talk about.
it is.
But
and it's so
and I'm
layered,
trying, and I'm
one
trying-
dialogue can't resolve it.
Right, exactly. And I'm not saying that. The fact of the matter is, it is not Black America's fault. But I think to get the best results,
Yeah.
there has to be inward, like what do we change?
And
You know?
that's
And
going on every single day.
huh?
That's going on every single day. You're sitting across from a young black man that grew up in the same neighborhood as
Correct.
Casanova. I could have went left and I went right.
Correct.
Equality only started 64, 74, 84,
Right.
94, 2004,
Right.
2014, 2024. Brother, it's only been 61 years.
You're right.
So my point is, in 61 years, I think we made significant
Hell
improvements.
yeah. But my only concern right now
Yeah.
is if I go into a underprivileged school, if I go into a Black school in East New York,
There's one right here. They told me Booker T's crazy.
yeah, Overtown, all these places.
Yeah.
bro. You know, I don't want to hear, even though it's not my role to say, I don't want to hear. It's the way I would raise my son. I don't want to hear my son saying it's someone else's fault. We need to talk about, well, how can we collaborate and what can you do? How can I help you? Because I want to help you, but what can you do
Correct.
to change the path? You
And
know what I'm
Casey
saying? And I
earlier-
feel like politically, culturally, we're putting it's everyone else's fault, and we're never going to get changed that way. Because I want the same result as you or anyone else.
I
but
subscribe and agree.
It's a different mentality that I feel like needs to be done.
Put
You know
the
what I'm
Biggie
saying?
shades
That
on,
they-
my fault.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Biggie only wears Versace's. I had to put the Versace's. I'm about to get Brooklyn.
Talk about it.
Yeah,
bro.
continue.
But yeah, man. I mean, I apologize to the audience if I'm sloppy with my words because this is a very complex topic and I didn't prep and I didn't write. This is something I'd want to write down. I'm just going off the cuff. But I even tell my girl all the time, I'm like, look, you missed your flight. It's your fault. Whatever you did, whatever happens to you, it's your fault. And that's the only way to learn because that's the only way. Yeah, bro, that's the only way you can learn from something is if you put blame on yourself.
It's a
even when
good
it's not.
start. Taking accountability. I said the same thing you said earlier. I might have quickly dusted through it, but I'll emphasize again. I said, one, parents need to be parents and raise their children.
Right.
The internet, YouTube, and music cannot raise your kids.
Facts.
My parents let me consume music, which was entertainment, but they also put novelty books in my hand. When I wanted inspiration, I did not go listen to Pac. When I wanted entertainment, I listened to Pac. When I wanted
See, I'm
inspiration,
different. I would listen to that for inspiration. I don't know why. Because it gives me an energy. It puts a fire under me to like want to move forward.
yeah,
And that's what I need.
that's your right.
Right.
To go to that for inspiration. But the music that I was listening to around the 90s, it wasn't geared towards going to law school, my brother.
Right.
I had to go listen to Malcolm X's speech, The Ballad or the Bullet.
Right.
I had to go listen to I Have a Dream.
But there's Jay-Z songs that I pull. I say, pause, eat the meat, spit out
Guy,
the bones.
I'm from
There's
Brooklyn. Jay-Z is our godfather. He has
He's my-
songs.
yeah, he's my
he
guy.
has songs like Big Pimpin'. Him and Dame Dash were dropping champagne on people's daughters. They lived the life of young men, and then they lived the life of consciousness.
But
the
yeah,
audience
in
had to choose what
amongst
music to
those
consume.
songs and those albums, bro, there are life lessons that have molded me. Like there's things that he
Hov talked
there's
about
quote-
selling crack for a long time, bro.
Right.
That's what he did.
Right.
He was one of the chosen ones.
Right. And
But
how do you
Hov-
think people got their entrepreneurial spirit and how to like, from that? It's unfortunate, but like that's
No, I'm
listening
with
to that
you.
Talk like that's how you
From
learn.
Marcy to Madison Square to the only thing that matters is a matter of
principles,
years. I'm
same-
with you.
Same principles, same ethics. But yeah, wow, that conversation turned.
This was a great dialogue.
Yeah, it's a great
And this
dialogue.
is before I go out and go do hood rat shit.
Yeah.
Right?
What about-
Half righteous,
yeah,
half ratchet.
exactly.
That's how I lived my life.
Exactly. So, yeah, man, it's just we're in a politically charged. You know how I see politics? I'm gonna say politics, liberalism and conservatism. I don't look at them like, even though they do apply to the parties, they're mentalities. Liberalism, people want things to change.
Yep.
Conservatives want things to stay the same.
But there's certain things you could be conservative on. Certain
Exactly.
things you could be liberal
And
on.
this is the problem: is that people
You have to pick a side.
people are picking sides to a temperament,
Yeah.
which doesn't
Kendrick
make sense.
fucked up Drake in the last 6 months. But let me tell you, Nokia slaps right now.
Yeah.
You play the song No Key at the clubs?
I'm not a Kendrick. I'm a Drake. I'm on Drake's side on this. I'm a Drake guy. I don't
In
like.
terms
I
of
don't
the
like.
battle, that one song had Will Ferrell on SNL calling him a pedophile.
I've never been into that type of rap. The pyramids in Egypt, like that type of.
No, I'm just talking about the battle, man. The song, They Not Like Us, it's impact. It doesn't matter what.
It is, but for me,
Casey, me and you's opinion is subjective. I'm talking about what the world has treated this battle as.
You're
They've
correct.
clearly demonstrated Kendrick as being the superior of this battle. But what I'm saying is, I don't have to pick a side. I thought Kendrick had a good 1-2 combo for Drizzy, but I heard Drizzy's Party Next Door album. I was slapping No Key on the way here. My point is, we don't have to choose, and that's why I'm American and I bank at Bank of America. I fly American Airlines. I have an American bulldog named America. I shop at American Apparel, particularly because of the right to choose. When I was in the UK back in 2008, 2009, I went to McDonald's. I couldn't order a large. It's one size.
You think that's in danger? The right to choose? In this
No.
country? Do you see certain things happening?
That's the forefront of democracy. If you make a poor decision, there's consequences. If you make a good decision, there's consequences.
Do you believe the right to choose should stand on social media? Or are those private companies and they should be able to
You have to elaborate. I don't understand the question.
like I guess right to choose would be freedom of speech, right to choose your words however you want.
No. But freedom of speech is not absolute. For example, suck your mother, fuck you, cunt. Those words are not protected. Hey, let's storm the White House and go fuck shit up. Words that incite a riot are not protected. Profanity is not protected. Freedom of speech is not absolute. So freedom is not absolute. You're free to do things so long as they're within the bounds of the law.
Ooh.
So our freedoms
but
are extensive. We have the right to get big ass SUVs, right? You go to Paris, ain't no fucking SUVs. You don't even have the choice. Yeah. So what I want is the freedom of choice, because I can make good choices and I can make bad choices. But some people have a living based on people that make bad choices. Criminal defendants, Johnny Cochran made a living off people making bad choices. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, in America, we're gonna have good and bad. And I'll bring it right back to the immigration issue. There was a time where immigrants could not get driver's licenses. That was hurting Americans because they were driving regardless. They get into accidents. Now we Americans suffered because they didn't have any coverage. Right. So New York was like, man, fuck that. We're going to give them driver's licenses. DeSantis decided to take that away. Now they can't get driver's licenses. But just like the person I was showing you, the Argentinian, they're getting into car accidents because they're going to drive regardless. And now we are fucked. Unlicensed motorists who's driving one of those scooters in South Beach ran into my fucking car, dinged the entire right side, cost me $2,300 in damage because when the cops came, they said, he has no insurance, he has no driver's license. I said, you're not even gonna arrest him? This is not a crime. It's a violation of vehicle traffic law. It's not a violation of the penal code. The penal code is a crime. Vehicle traffic law is just a violation. Just let this guy walk away. So we Americans are being hurt. So what I'm saying is, let's extend some rights and privileges to immigrants on a case-by-case basis. We're going to evaluate every single person the same way a college, a school, your place of employment. Didn't they check out your skill set before you worked there?
Wait. Yeah, I'm going to push back.
Go ahead.
So people that are here illegally, that broke the law, should be given rights.
No. People who are here on the soil, they all have rights. The U.S. Constitution applies to everybody in America. So before somebody's deported, they have to get their day in court. So
when you say immigrants, do you mean illegal immigrants?
Every immigrant, whether you're legal or illegal, right, has rights. And the rights are the U.S. Constitution. We as a state can diminish your rights. So Governor DeSantis says you don't have the right to, let's say, go apply for a license. To apply is your right. You can't. We're taking that privilege away unless you're documented. So the states can reduce your rights, but everyone here goes to the hospital, the doctor must see them. If you punch an immigrant in the mouth, they could sue you. They have a right.
That's wild to me, bro. That's wild to me that you could break a law and just...
What do you mean break a law? Whoa. Break a law?
Yeah, we're talking about an illegal immigrant that comes into the country.
Tell me the law that they broke.
Illegally?
Yeah. You can cross the border illegally.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
And you're saying that's breaking the law? Or are you committing a crime in America?
No, if you come in illegally, you are a criminal.
No, that's incorrect.
Please educate me. Because
so crossing the border is entering the country as an unauthorized alien. You have to commit a criminal offense, and criminal offenses are outlined in the penal code. Crossing the border, it's considered quasi-criminal, meaning you cross the border, you don't go to jail. Custom and Border Patrol, they give you a document called CBP-1 telling you got to show up to court. Show up to court to argue why did you cross the border. That is not criminal at all. It's a preconceived notion that's incorrect.
That was like, so if you
ever
come
heard
in-
lawyers
if,
lie?
If you come in here
You ever heard
illegally,
anybody
you're
say
not
that,
an
lawyers
illegal
lie?
immigrant. If you come in here illegally, you're
If you
an
come in
illegal
here,
immigrant.
correct, and being an illegal
Meaning you're a
immigrant is
criminal.
no, you're not a criminal for crossing the border illegally. You're categorized as what you just said, an illegal immigrant. It's a term of art, meaning that's your
Bro, we gotta
category.
get on our lawyer shit, bro. Because
You don't go to prison for
Ille-
crossing the border illegally.
illegal means you committed a crime. Aren't those the same?
And crossing the border is not a crime. Crossing the border isn't okay. If I speed, is that a crime? If I do 110 miles per hour, is that a crime? The answer is no. It's just a violation. If I jaywalk, is that a crime? No, it's just a violation. So a crime is defined. You and I don't say because somebody did it wrong.
So
it's a
what is
crime.
the line before it becomes a crime? What is the
When you go to court, so when you cross the border, you get a document by Custom and Border Patrol. They catch you. Ha! Do you have any documentation? You're like, nah, I got none. Okay, you got to show up to court. Now, when you show up to court, the immigration judges ask you, what's your reason for crossing the border? So I have one client, for example, cross the border to meet her spouse, who she married in their native country, but she didn't have a legal way to come in. He was a U.S. citizen because of his family members. He was a member of the armed forces. So now there's an exception. If you're married to a member of the armed forces, America pardons the fact that you crossed the border unlawfully, and you're able to get what's called parole in place, meaning we're going to forgive that you crossed the border because you have an honest spouse who's a U.S. citizen who not only pays taxes but works for the federal government. So we're going to allow you to apply for a green card based on the fact that you have a relationship with this U.S. citizen. Why? Because we want to encourage marriage. We want to encourage law-abiding citizens. So I would apply for that individual by showing letters of good character, affidavits from members of their church, from family members. But her crossing into this country didn't make her a criminal at all. It just made her undocumented. And that's the category. You're undocumented versus criminal. Criminal means you were accused of a crime, you were convicted of a crime, now you're a criminal. But crossing the border, you never had your day in court.
This is an interesting topic because if there was a process to come into a country and you ignore that process,
Yeah.
that's called disrespecting the law.
A Cuban crosses into this country, they're not a criminal because the laws exist that make them able to cross into the country and receive papers, because back in the day we were against communism.
Yeah.
So we allowed the Cubans to cross here.
Right.
You have the humanitarians against Ukraine. For anyone who crosses into
Yeah,
America,
exceptions and shit make everything gray and vague because you're
they
right.
don't.
That's why I wish we were like Dubai, Saudi Arabia. You
Muslim
go
country?
to sleep with $1 million in the middle of the road, nothing will happen to you.
But my boy had
Sometimes
1 ounce of weed and he served a year in jail.
Safest place in the world.
It is.
Standards have to be stringent. Standards have to be. I see beauty in stringent limits for me, myself, in the country that I live in,
I don't think
and my people, and my family, and the people that I love.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay.
But you can only talk that shit because you live in America. You go say that shit in, let's say, mainland China, it's a different fucking response that you're going to get. They cannot use Facebook because the government has an ironclad on their necks.
Hey,
Do you know such thing
I
as the
can
Chinese
see-
dream? There's the American dream. Have
Right.
you ever heard of the Chinese dream?
the Chinese dream, they're gonna eclipse us, and it's because of this. It's because of. I mean, this is another deep topic, but. Whew,
Blasphemy.
Do I want to go here?
The
I don't know
Chinese
if I
have
wanna
no
go here.
economy without us.
No, you're correct. But freedom can be the average person's. Let me rephrase this. most people would do better in life if they were told what to do.
Yes. And we are told what to do by our parents until we are 18 years old. But the government cannot come infringe upon my individual private rights. The government cannot say, Rich, you have to make your bed. The government cannot say, Rich, you have to drive this vehicle and marry this person. But the government used to do that. They said whites had to marry whites and blacks had to marry blacks.
Right. But there's a slippery slope, because then you got people like, okay, I don't want to go to, but now we give you the right to chop your dick off. You
Correct.
Right.
And you can.
And now do they have the right to talk to our kids about it?
And that's being censored. The government, as in Trump's government, is saying, no, we don't agree with that. And that's his right, because he's president and we elected him. We, the American people, divested power into this man to make these decisions. But you know what? After 4 years, somebody else comes about. So these things don't affect my day-to-day, because if I have children, I will govern my children. The government can censor however they want, but I believe government starts in our household. Your parents, our parents did a good job.
I believe society should be ran in a fatherly manner. That's how I believe.
So you believe in the patrimonial society. What about these women out here? They don't got a voice?
Let me put my hat on.
The women don't got a voice?
Let me put my hat on backwards on this talk. Of course they have a voice.
Thank God.
Patriarch.
I don't want to get canceled. Women, we love you.
Yeah, no, I love women.
You say on the next
I love
set.
women so much that I believe all men should protect and provide for women. That's
Amen.
That's
I'm
how
with
much I
that
love
too.
women. That's how much I love women.
I'm with that. Remember, I said I'm a zaddy. I'm just not your father.
Yeah.
So there's blinds.
Yeah. Oh, so wait, where were you at with your philosophy in that regard, as far as a dynamic with a woman? Are you the guy who wants the woman to be the family woman with the kids, stay home with the kids, raise the kids, make sure, she's filtering all the weirdo shit from outside world, mate? Do you want that to be her job, or do you want her to be a career woman, bringing in resources with you at the same time? How do you see that dynamic?
My stance on that is I want to give the woman ultimate autonomy. I had an uncle.
I agree.
I looked up to him my whole life, right? He used to be the smartest person in our family. And this is just based on test scores and education. I looked up to my uncle Dumar my whole life. Motherfucker was ill. Like 6'2", with some beautiful eyes. He was sharp, ripped up like a Japanese sword fight. I want to be just like my uncle. And my uncle gave his wife the choice. You can stay home with each of the kids until it's time for them to go to school. She did that for all of his 3 boys. Worked on all of their homework with them, stayed home, and he gave her whatever she wanted. Thereafter, when they were each 5 years old and went to school, she decided to go to work. But he gave her that choice, and she made that choice.
Right.
So I prefer to give my partner the freedom and choice. And I think that's part of being a man. I award you with the privilege of choice, because I don't got no fucking choice.
Right.
You feel me? Every day I got to work. Every day. I don't get tired.
So do you consider yourself a traditional man? Because what I can't get with is people, especially women, are picking and choosing what aspects they want of their relationship to be traditional.
Correct.
And what they want to be modern.
If you want a
And that's
traditional
what
man, you're a traditional woman. Meaning your ass is not all over the internet.
literally the conversation.
There was a time where we used to obsess against women. The reason why we don't anymore is because everyone has access to you. My lover in college, I was with her for 10 years. If I lied to her about something, and I did, I went to Vegas once. The year was 2008. I was having fun in Vegas. I told her I was studying for an exam. That wasn't the truth. She caught me lying. I wanted my girl back so much. I went to get a big oak tag. I folded in half like a big card. I wrote 100 reasons why I love you. I went to the arts and crafts store, bought construction paper, cut out 100 hearts, wrote 100 reasons why I love her, and folded each and submitted that to her. Why? Because my girl was exclusive. She was just for me. Exactly. Nobody else had access to my girl. Right. She was traditional. So we did things like that back when. Now I'm observing. I'm like, what? Everybody has access to you. They can send you a DM, you respond.
You know what it is too? Is that women don't need men today. And the problem is, I say this analogy all the time.
The roads that they drive on, we made.
No, you're correct.
The Chanel bags, we made.
Yeah, we civilized the world. We could debate whether we should have did that or not, but we civilized the world. And what I'm saying is that when you see a 70-year-old woman walk across the street and she's fine, y'all just walk across the street. But if you see a 7-year-old woman that looks like she needs help,
correct,
you're going to help her.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that these women don't need help, so we're not going to help them.
They do fucking need help. How are they going to
create
children?
But the way they portray themselves is they don't need help. They don't need a man, even though every single aspect of their whole life is ran by a man. they don't need a man to survive. They could pay their own bills, they can work, they could do all these things, which is, I'm not against that. Women should work, women should have but in doing so, a side effect was disincentivizing men to want to take care of women, because
Correct.
you don't need to be taken care of.
Correct.
Someone's not going to take care of something that doesn't need to be taken care of.
Correct.
That's just the way I see it.
I agree with you 1,000,000%. And we're all from the same school of thought. All men, as in the women, they create like Facebook groups. Are we talking to the same man? And they express, they'll put a photo up and girls give me the tea. The way that a guy treated one woman does not necessarily mean he's going to treat all women like that. Women, respectfully, some of us ain't shit. You might date a guy, he really ain't shit. He sleeps all day. He's not motivational. He's not disciplined. And you give him the bare minimum. Versus you meet somebody else who upholds the status of a man and you treat him well. The guy who wasn't doing well shouldn't come talk to the guy who is doing well and be like, let me tell you, man, she doesn't make time for you. She doesn't No, there's something about you, dog, that made her treat you that way.
It's my fault all the time.
Correct.
If my woman leaves me, what did I do? What can I change?
Yes. Accountability. It's always my fault. And that's a great way for all of us to observe and live our lives. It always comes down to, it's my fault first.
Even when it's not, she probably just went back to her ex and you did nothing wrong.
Facts.
But tell yourself you did something wrong so you can change something and go to the gym at least.
Facts.
If she left you for ex, you're probably not gonna go to the gym because it's her fault. It's not my fault.
Correct.
Maybe. It's just the way I said. Now, if your girl works, are you paying all the bills? How do you see divvying up finances and things of that nature?
Okay, so this is just internal. Before I even get into a relationship with the woman, this is how I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
In my family, we have nothing but partnerships. All my brothers are married. They have partners. Partners mean you contribute to my life in one way, I contribute to your life in one way.
Which mean they don't have to be monetary. The value exchange can be in different ways.
Each person, you meet them where you meet them. I might meet someone who's a surgeon. She makes $600,000. She might blow me out the frame our first year. When I was with my girl for a decade, she became a registered nurse while I was still in school. Then she became a nurse practitioner while I was still in school. She had mad dough. I had no dough. I was a student. She met me where she met me. But she knew I'm investing my time and energy in Rich because Rich is going to be somebody someday. And by somebody, I'm going to pursue my career and I'm going to achieve better than good enough. That's what I mean by I'm going to be somebody someday. Doing a little bit better than good enough. You get where I'm coming from? So I meet a woman where I meet the woman. If I'm in a position to do a bit more and it's 90-10, that's why I met her. If it's 80-20, that's why I met her. I don't believe there's any absolute rule. There's different strokes for different books.
Right. And that can change throughout time.
Correct. Right. There's no book on life, man. Right? You doing what works for you. I watched you DJ that set on Sunday. I was in awe. I kept telling your boy, yo, don't take this the wrong way. That's a different kind of white boy. He's not regular. He's like, yeah, he's super ordinary. I said, how does he put the blends together so well? He's prolific and talented. I'm unable to do that. You get where I'm coming from? So that's your skill set. That's your talent. In the event that you meet a partner, that's how you guys connect. That's the skill set that you'll use in order to maintain your relationship versus me. Every day I get up and I go change and save some lives. Right? What issue does my client have? This is how I earn some dough. So I can help my partner just through that.
Okay, I would assume, Rich, that you can provide for a woman if you choose to.
Correct.
And you work hard, you come home, and I'm sure if you're gonna provide for a woman, you want to be catered to. Right?
Yeah.
I would assume that you would want food on the table. I would assume that you want things to be handled in the house because you're paying for everything and you had a long day.
But
Now,
my
if
expectation
the
is not that I pay for everything. My expectation is, this is what my expectation is before I go in. This is going to be 80-20. She's going to loosen or lighten my load in life by 20%, and I'm going to loosen and lighten her load by 80%. She's never going to pay rent. She's never going to have to pay utilities. She's probably hardly going to have to do any maintenance to her vehicle. But my girl might buy the groceries because I'm not thinking about that shit. That reduces my expenses in life by 20%. Now it makes sense for us to get together.
Because I was going to say,
If I'm picking up 100% of my life and 100% of yours, you're only providing me with emotional and physical gratification. Why must I commit to you? I can get that from hundreds of other people.
Right. See, the scenario I was going to paint was You come home and now your wife, with that autonomy you gave her, she wants to go work. And now she doesn't want to do the things that
relationship no longer works for us. And then we part ways.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's where I was at.
It comes down to what each individual wants. So I want no one, audience members, to subscribe to one set of rules. If Dr. Umar believes all black people should date black people, that's his fucking business.
Right.
What he eat don't make me shit. What he does with his dick is his business. What I do with mine is my business.
Right.
So I don't subscribe to any particular rules, and I don't think anyone should. There are no rules out here, man.
Right.
I came to Florida with the book bag and a maleta.
Yeah.
Right? Based on the rules, I couldn't come to a new territory and think that I'm going to make new friends and I'm going to start from scratch. The rules that exist tell us, man, you can't be in somebody else's hood.
Yeah.
You know, you're a New Yorker, you go to Miami.
I'm talking more gender dynamics.
Go ahead.
I don't want to say rules why. Like, yeah, I get that. As far as
Gender rules
and why
exist.
relationships don't last anymore. It's like a 70% chance you're getting a divorce.
The lines are blurred.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, the problem is we had the old contract.
Uh-huh.
Men worked, women stayed at home, and now we invented the new contract, and we're taking things from the old contract, taking things from the new contract, and it's all and it's not fair. It's not
correct.
Great.
So you find someone from your school of thought, someone whose ideologies align with you, and that's who you get with. And you ready for this? You might never find it, Casey.
I know.
I got a 50-year-old partner at my old firm, bona fide G. I call him a silver fox, handsome stud, 50 in the face, 26 in the body, 40 years of experience. Father was a lawyer, so he's a bona fide practitioner. Still single. I asked him what happened. Why weren't you able to? And he goes, Rich, the older I got, the less flexible I was. There's certain things I didn't accept anymore. I'm from the old school.
You have kids?
No children. He didn't want to procreate with anyone because he thought they were not deserving of the life that he was going to provide for her and the children. Being able to send your kids to charter school, being able to always provide for your kids is a benefit for the mother. She never has to worry.
Right.
So he knew no woman that I conceive with is ever going to have an issue with the kids. I'm going to make their lives great. He never found anyone that was worthy.
What were you born, bro? How old are you? Are we around the same age?
I've been 25 for the last 10 years.
Okay, we're the same. Okay, I'm 36.
There we go.
88?
Yeah.
Okay. October?
Yeah, 21st.
29th.
Hey.
You're 8 days older than me, bro.
Hey.
So, what was I going to say? Bro, are you, okay, so we're the same age. It's a good talk. Do you, no kids?
No children.
Do you have that, I want to say it's from nature?
The burning desire to procreate?
I can't talk today, by the way. I worked and talked on a microphone for 5 hours. So, yeah, a burning desire to procreate.
Yeah, of course. I think one, it would be selfish if I didn't. You know,
okay,
my
I feel
kid,
that too. I feel like it's selfish to not procreate.
It's selfish, man.
Right.
Somebody's child created our phone. Somebody's child created this device. So you don't know what your kid might go off to do. God forbid they become the next Jeffrey Dahmer, but you hope that your children...
My boy said that who don't want kids. He's like, bro, you never know. Your kid could just be an asshole. And you don't even know. Like,
you know, and when they're just
I don't
born,
see that, though.
Me neither. I don't see that either.
Yeah.
I don't see that either. But the truth is you never know.
Yeah.
So absolutely. But the OGs used to tell me, young man, keep your skin tight. Keep your skin tight means go to the fucking gym.
Yeah.
I'm going to look like this for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
My mom is like 76. She looks 45. My grandfather, he passed away 3 years ago. He was 102. He woke up one morning healthy and said to my uncle, his child, I got to go to the hospital. My uncle goes, Dad, you want me to get the wheelchair? He's like, nah, I'm going to walk to the car because I'm not coming back today. And my uncle goes, why are you being so negative, Dad? He goes, because I've had this body for 100 years. My heart is not beating as fast as it used to. I feel one of my lungs collapsing. My uncle brings him to the car, says, Dad, let me put on your seatbelt. He goes, you don't need to do that. Today's my last day. Just drive.
What?
He drives down 6 blocks, and my grandfather just goes to bed, and that was it. The day that the guy died, he called it. Right? And this is not just my grandmother. I knew my great-grandmother. She died in 98. She was 98. Her daughter, my grandmother, passed in 2017. She was 99. This is the longevity that I've had on my mom's side. I'm grateful for that. My dad's side, they keep eating, you know, maduro, arroz blanco, con habichuela, and
they die in their 90s. My dad's side, I don't know because they just don't take
have
care
poor
of themselves
diets.
well enough to know how long
they would
last.
live. Yeah. So moral of that story is we can procreate later down the line. right? It was more important for me, one, to be able to achieve what I call happiness. And I remember how my life looked when I was 10 years old, looking at the streets around me, watching kids fuck their lives up. I had a friend in the 7th grade that came to my house and offered me crack. I told him, get the fuck out of here, man. I looked at him and said, we're in the 7th grade, you doing crack. His response to me was, I only fucking come here to play your video games. Now he's institutionalized. I would look at folks and I would say, this ain't it. So when someone tells me their neighborhood, correct, but I would watch the TV and see the Huxtables. And I'd say, this can't be it. Look, the Jeffersons. I'd watch the Fresh Prince and I would literally say, I'm trying to fuck with those kinds of folks.
Yeah.
I want to be in Beverly Hills with a cousin that came from West Philly that has no issue being himself.
Right.
I grew up under hip hop. I got 2 cuts in my hair, a mohawk. I have a prolific Michael Jordan collection because that's what raised me.
Yeah.
My work and my culture are separate.
You're saying okay, so you want to wait. See, I want to be a father so bad, bro.
Go get a wife.
So bad.
Do you care about marriage?
So bad. No.
Me neither.
I always say I want to be a father more than a husband.
Yeah.
But because I just, you know what it is? I see culture just so feminine, man. Everything is feminine. Everything is the feminine outlook. We're becoming like a matriarchy, and these young boys are like women, bro.
I agree.
I want to do, if I can't be a father, I want to be a coach. I want to talk to young men. I want to instill young men and let them know, like, bro, this life is suffering. And if you don't, either you're going to get strong and build yourself up to be able to combat that suffering, or you're just going to,
you're going to fold,
be
man.
a pawn. Be a pawn your whole life.
The world has been emasculated slightly.
Only
And the
slightly?
world in America. Let me tell you,
Only
Ukraine,
slightly?
they tough.
Only
In
slightly?
America.
I think it's terrible.
We
bro.
still here, though. We still here. Me and you haven't changed.
No, we're talking. Yeah,
Our peers.
I'm talking about these. Have you seen these young kids? Bro?
Yeah, they softer than baby food.
It's bad.
My
bro.
brother has 3 kids, and my nephews, and we look at each other, me and my brother, we like, they couldn't survive in Flatbush.
Yeah, bro. There's no.
He's like, it's a different time.
Because we're telling these young boys a feminine message, and that's to be happy. Life is not about, as a man, it's not about happiness. It's about progress. I don't want to be happy. I don't wake up and say, how can I be happy today? I wake up and say, how can I be accomplished? What can I do to be a better man than I was yesterday? And all that is good. Because if you chase happiness, you're going to do shit like drugs and stupid shit to get the short-term happiness. You could get the front-end pleasure with the back-end pain, or the front-end pain for the back-end pleasure. Pause if that sounded crazy. But that's what we need to be preaching to these young boys. Take the pain up front so you can, that's called purpose. That's the difference between purpose and hedonism.
You my boy, though. You my boy.
Yeah. That was
you my
the
boy.
front end pain. Big pause.
My last point on the femininity going on is there's a sociological explanation for it. You ready? Tough times create tough people. Tough people create easy times. Easy times create weak people, and weak people create tough times.
So I want to be the guy that in these easy times, I want to artificially create tough times for the men. Like
we should. But my brother, for example, he remembers hardship. He remembers when it was the heat got turned off and we had to go by the stove. So he doesn't want that for the kids. They grew up in Beamers, Benz, and Bentleys.
See, that's bad though.
It is.
That's a terrible thing.
Until you have kids, you don't understand.
That's what our parents' generation fucked up in.
Until you have kids, you won't understand.
Wanting to, you know what, you're right in that.
He says, Rich, to look at your baby boy and know that he has to go through the hard way, you fight. It's like the fatherly instinct won't let you do it. If you see him being bullied in school, you don't want to tell him, look, go back to school, get a milk cart and hit that kid in the face. You want to tell him to avoid confrontation because you never know. That bully really might hurt your baby boy.
Right.
Where I came from, our parents didn't even want to discuss that. Why? Right. They came from the old country where they get hit with rocks, where they were fighting like men when they were 5'6". So I couldn't even tell my dad something about, he was a Marine. He fought in the Vietnam War. I couldn't even tell him something about, Dad, somebody's bullying me. I would get my ass beat. So I had to go to school. We called it a rites of passage. We handled that shit. I dated a girl. She told me her nephew, who's biracial, half black, half white, now lives in an all-white school district where the kids bullied him because he's brown skinned, and now the mom is homeschooling him. I said, what do you think that kid is gonna go off to become? He's gonna learn that he could walk away from his problems, doesn't have to take any of them head on.
Fathers, bro. That's the difference between a mother and a father.
Correct.
That's literally the difference between a mother
The
and a
mom
father.
left the dad and got with another
The mother
dad.
is gonna say, "Don't let the kid play on the stairs." The father's gonna say, "No, let him play."
Agreed.
And if he falls a little bit, he didn't die. He got stronger and he learned. Lessons without pain are easily forgotten.
Amen.
That-
Amen just means I agree.
Yeah.
Amen.
Bro, we could talk for another 2 hours, bro. I
We
don't
wrap it
hold
up.
you like on a Friday and shit.
Appreciate you.
Bro, first of all, real quick, as far as your career goes, what's the next level for you? Any aspirations? Have you see
indeed.
yourself in Miami long term? What do you see for yourself?
Yeah, very simply put, my objective here is to continuously impact the Miami culture by changing lives, saving lives, and building lives. Changing lives through immigration, saving lives through criminal defense, and building lives through personal injury. I want to grow my firm. I'm the owner and operator of my firm. I created the Franklin Law Firm. I have my partners, Rob Trilling, shout out to him. Shakira, shout out to her. She handles all the capital murder cases. Rob handles the overwhelming majority of the personal injury cases. We just want to continue growing, going into law school, FIU law school, getting young, motivated lawyers, having them intern, come on board, hiring them, giving them opportunities to do better than good enough. Miami is the home that I created. New York is the home that I was born into. Everything in Miami is precisely how I wanted it to be. My older brother just moved here. He lives in Boca. My mom's coming down here, moving to Hollywood.
Fire.
This is the era of the New Yorker down here. We call this the
Do
sixth
you like
borough.
to go back or no?
No, absolutely not.
I know a lot of New Yorkers that say that they don't like to go back.
We did 30 years in New York. We're good.
Yeah.
We did the bid.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. I don't want to go back to Alcatraz.
And shit.
That's
I mean,
the rats, the weather, the competition. Somebody thinks like you're from Oklahoma, you're gonna come get your dreams in New York City. Ha! We grew up there. You think you could come take my job in New York? It's perhaps the most competitive place on earth.
It might be better to raise your son in New York though. But that's why you are the way you. That's why you're resilient the way you are, is because you grew up in.
I just get a New York mom.
Inconvenience.
I get a New York mom.
You think that'll? Yeah. You think
Hell
that'll-
yeah. Parenting is quintessential to what the children become. What I did outside was only outside. Once I came in the four corners of my parents' house, we walked a particular way. We talked a particular way. They had the direct impact on us. And everything that I am today, shout out to my family. I couldn't have done it without them. I never had one member of my family set a bad example for me. There's no one incarcerated. There's no one in a gang. Nobody so dope. Every uncle that I had was a stand-up man. Every auntie that I had was a stand-up partner, wife, woman. From my grandmother to my grandfather. They were together for 75 years. So I credit all that I have done to them. They never looked at me and told me I couldn't do anything. So for those people who don't have a structural family, go seek one in the form of the YMCA, in the form of a church,
Sports, yeah.
in the form of an athletic group, because that infrastructure is necessary, man. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Facts. Plug your social media.
My social media, Filthy Rich, PHILTHY _ Rich, RICH _ Website, www.franklin with a Y, FRANKLYN, law, LAW.com. You can contact my office 7 days a week, 786-614-9113. I'm of the culture, I'm for the culture, and I'm by the culture.
There it is, bro. We're gonna teach you Spanish, bro. I'm about to get on it, bro. You trust me. You got, bro. You get Spanish in your bag, Rich. You got everything else. You literally have everything else. You get Spanish in your bag, it's over for you.
He's gonna make me a super Negro.
Yeah, bro. Miami on the rocks. Bow.
KC Chops, boy.